This is the second video of our series covering basic checkmates. Let's get started by defining what is check and checkmate. Well, check is when the king is being attacked by a piece. And there are three rules in regards to getting out of check. Rule 1. Move your king out of the attack. Rule 2. Capture the piece that is attacking the king. Or Rule 3, use one of your pieces to block the check. In future videos, we'll get to see full examples of this. In this video, we're going to cover basic checkmates where the defending king is by himself. So the king is in check because the rook is attacking the king. The queen covers all of these squares. The king cannot move to any square that is highlighted because it is being attacked by enemy pieces. So the king moves out of check, and we place the king in check. Now we're covering these squares. It forces the king up. Check again. And you begin to see the pattern that we're forcing the king to the edge of the board. And in all of these checkmates, the king must be on the edge of the board for the checkmate to occur. So we're always cattle herding the king to the edge of the board. And in this position, this is checkmate in one move. And that's it. Notice how the king is being attacked, and he cannot get out of check. So if you know the three rules of check, you understand the concept of checkmate. Checkmate is when the king is being attacked, and he cannot get out of check with the three rules. Our next checkmate is with the king and queen. And since the queen is so powerful, she by herself can cattle herd the king without the king's help. So the first move would be here. We always want to make a move which will take away as many squares as possible from the king. So he goes here, we use our diagonal, and again, we cut off squares from the king. No matter where the king moves, we're constantly going to take away squares until he finally steps on an edge of the board. Now, the concept of stalemate we'll cover now. There are three results in chess. You can win, you can lose, or you can draw. And another word for draw is stalemate. In this situation, we've almost achieved our goal of trapping the king on the corner of the board. But there's a right way to do this and a wrong way. In this situation, if we would go here, this is a great move which traps the king, and it leaves him one legal square that he can move to, because our queen is attacking all of these squares. You never want to take away all legal moves from a king. For instance, if we moved here, the queen covers every square around the king. And in chess, if you have no legal moves, that's a draw. So it's always wise to be patient anytime the defending side just has a king. So continuing, we play queen b5. We've cut off almost every square from the king, so all he can do is go back and forth now. And we simply bring our king up and checkmate. Because the king cannot capture the queen, kings can never touch, you would be in check. The king cannot escape from the queen's attack, therefore the game is over. And it should be noted, in chess, you can never capture a king. And kings will never touch each other. This position, for instance, where the kings would be directly beside each other, could never happen. because for that to happen, the king would be moving himself into check. There are only check and checkmate. Our final example is with the rook, and it's a little bit different than the previous two examples because the king and rook will need to work together, whereas the queen, as she has mastery of the diagonals, she's able to cattle herd the king on her own. In this situation, we'll have to use the king and rook together in harmony in order to push the defending king to one of the edges of the board. So first, I give check. And then I want to make a move that takes away as many squares as possible from the king. And that would be here, because we cut off all of these squares. Now the king cannot move into check, so he's forced. We make the box smaller. And that's constantly our goal, is to just keep pushing him until we get him to the edge of the board and trap him there. So in this situation, we can't move the rook to make the box smaller, and anytime you can't move the rook to make the box smaller, you move the king. Now the king's covering these two squares, and we've used our rook. In this situation, we can't move the rook, otherwise we give space to the defending king. In this situation, we waste a move, or tempo, and allow the defending king to move again. And regardless of where he moves, we'll begin to take space. We can't move the rook to take space, therefore we move our king. In this situation, we make the box smaller. We finally trapped him on the back rank. Now this king can only move to these three squares because our rook is covering all the retreating squares. Now the king's trying to defend. If we move our rook over here, the king is going to run. The position that we would like to have is if the king was here, we would simply move our rook to the back rank, and the king would not be able to escape. That would be checkmate. So we've got to figure out a way to get our king in front of his and still have the move to be able to check on the back rank without letting him out. So say, for instance, if we go here, we need it to be white's move in this situation. But black will simply move away. Now this is where wasting a move comes in handy. We simply move our rook. Now if the king comes back this way, that would be checkmate, because the king cannot escape from check. So the king will go the other way. He'll run towards the corner, but we will chase after him, and no matter what he does, it's checkmate. So it's very important to understand wasting a move or tempo. That covers our basic checkmate lecture. Please join us next time.